This is a step-by-step guide of how to sail from the Bahamas to the Turks and Caicos and finally into the Dominican Republic. I'm by no means a professional sailor, but having just sailed this route over the past couple of weeks, I can say for sure that it works. I've broken down this topic into 3 easy steps. Number 1, the sailing portion. Weather windows, anchorages, navigation, that sort of stuff. Number 2, checking in and out of the countries, aka bureaucracy and paperwork fun. And number 3, why you should hang around Luperon. It's a lot of fun for very little money. Let's get started. Hey, thanks for making it all the way to the bureaucracy section. Hooray! So real quick, I'm going to recap how to check in and out of the Bahamas, Turks and Caicos, and Dominican Republic. Let's get into it. The Bahamas. You can pretty much sail your boat to any of the family islands. From there, you're going to talk to somebody from Customs and Immigration, depending on what port you go to. They will charge you $300 for 3 months or $600 for a year. And that is a permit for your sailboat. You yourself then get a personal tourist visa. Usually 3 months is pretty average. I've been given as low as 2 months before by somebody who wasn't having as good of a day, and I've been also given a 6-month visa, which was awesome. So it does vary on who you talk to. Before you go to the Bahamas, if you can, you're going to want to go to the Bahamas Click to Clear website. You can put in all your information about your boat, your captain, crew member, provision list, everything like that goes into there, and it will make this process very quick. If the site's not working, which it wasn't for me on my last time in there, it's not really the end of the world. It takes a little bit longer. They might get a little frustrated. It's to be expected. But you can still go into the office and complete all their paperwork longhand, or they might just connect you to the Wi-Fi and have you do it right there in front of them. Either way, the Bahamians are pretty great about it. They'll figure it out. Now, checking out of the Bahamas has recently changed as of, I think, 3 weeks ago. It used to be that you had to check out and then they would give you some paperwork that said that, which is good if you're going to a country like the Dominican Republic, which needs to know where you just were. So myself and many other sailors were on My Iguana, which has no customs or immigration officials there. And when we went to leave, we were saying to ourselves, how do we show documentation that we left the Bahamas? Long story short, if you want to do that, if you want to have paperwork that says you've left, you need to go to a customs or immigration official. They will stamp some stuff and give you a signed, notarized piece of paper that will cost you $75 now. Otherwise, you can just leave the country whenever you want. They're very lax about it again. Bahamians are a very no-stress people. It's what we all love about them. Now, I was a bit worried about this going to the Dominican Republic, and I'll get to that in a minute, but long story short, because of that, because I couldn't get to a place to give me paperwork, I went to the Turks and Caicos instead. Turks and Caicos, geographically being identical really to the rest of the Bahamas, but being a different country in the Commonwealth of Britain, you are to complete a SailClear form online. So sailclear.com, I believe, is the website. You can look it up at Turks and Caicos, SailClear. It should get you to the right place. There, you're going to put in sort of all the same information. Now, I didn't even know about this website, so I kind of just showed up in Cockburn Harbor, went in to talk to the officials there. I'll be honest, it was the biggest bunch of nonsense I've ever had to go through. It wasn't really that big of a deal. It was just it's supposed to be $50 when you check in and then $50 when you check out, which is kind of weird. But if you check in at $11.50, it then goes to $55, and depending on this day and that day, and yeah, it was really dumb. It was really, really dumb, to be totally honest with you. But you know what? I did the paperwork. Same thing. You just need your passport, your boat registration, a passport for anybody else who's on board. And that cost me, I think it was $60 to check in and $50 to check out. So it might cost you as much as $120 or as little as $100, depending on whatever nonsense. That $100 or so will get you a week. And then I'm not sure how it works exactly, but I know for $300 you can get 1 month in the Turks and Caicos. I'll be honest with you, I don't think terribly highly of the Turks and Caicos. I think it's just a very overpriced Bahamas. So I'd recommend just transiting through there and then moving on. You don't need to check into the Turks and Caicos if you are moving on to the Dominican Republic. You can transit the country by never leaving your boat, never going offshore. However, when you approach the country of the Turks and Caicos, I believe within 5 or 6 nautical miles, you should radio the Turks and Caicos Border Patrol, Turks and Caicos Navy, however you want to put it, and they're going to ask you quite a few questions, and they're very professional over the radio. I got to hand it to them, very professional, including questions like, what's the serial number of your EPIRB? And these are questions they say that are for your safety, which would make sense. They want to know the make and model of your dinghy, what kind of engine you've got on your dinghy, things like that. And they will track you on radar and on AIS. I have no AIS on my boat, but they sure as heck got me twice on radar. It was all good, but it was just they knew exactly where I was, which was kind of funny. Anyway, so I did check into the Turks and Caicos, and I did check out of there. That paperwork then from checking out of the Turks and Caicos, I then brought with me down to the Dominican Republic. A few quick tidbits before I get into the actual check-in process in the Dominican Republic, just I want you guys to know, is if you're sailing from the Turks and Caicos to the DR, the route that I did to Luperon, and as well to Ocean World, I noticed that channel 16 as I got closer was blocked off. There was some sort of interference, and that seems to be an ongoing problem I've heard from many other people. 6.8 on the VHF is what they use for hailing in distress here, although I've been told that channel 16 is monitored by the US Coast Guard, which is transiting around from the US to Puerto Rico and as well Guantanamo Bay. So they do monitor, and they are throughout this area if something should happen to you. There's a good chance you could be getting help from the US Coast Guard, which if there's anybody I want to come save me, it's them. Thank you, Coast Guard. Anyway, so as you're sailing in, also something to know, because I was pretty sleep deprived and beaten up when I saw this, there are tons of these red lights on the country, on like the mountainsides, and they'll turn on and then they'll just turn off. And it really freaked me out for a while. I wasn't sure what they were. It's just giant wind generators, you know, big wind turbines. They just have that so planes don't hit them, so don't get freaked out by that. But anyway, you're also not supposed to check into or sail into any port between the hours of 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. I don't want to discuss too much more about that because I don't feel I have all the information, but that's what you should do. Moving on to the check-in process. So the check-in process, I'm going to say, can go one of two different ways. Option A, which is the most straightforward but will probably cost you the most money, is going into a marina. If you're leaving from the Turks and Caicos, Ocean World would be your best bet. I've heard good things about it. I've heard it's a well-run place. I haven't really heard anything bad about it, other than the fact that, yeah, they charge money for you to get a slip there. It's just how it works. If you're a cheap sailor like me, it might not be your best option. But I was going to go there for a quick check-in because they have all the people that are needed to help you check in right there, because you're used to receiving tons of traffic, tons of yachts, and the money is there for that. However, if you go to a place like Luperon, it's just a little bit more spread out, but you'll still get to all the same places. They're right here in town, right when you get off the dinghy dock, and in fact I'll be doing a whole video specifically on Luperon next that'll include what I loved about it, a few things I didn't, and a very specific broken down walkthrough of how to check in. But to quickly put it for you that are looking to sail into Luperon, I recommend coming on in. And if you want to put yourself out there on 6/8 that you are a new cruiser in the area and some of the other cruisers might pick up and help you, there's a good chance, it's a good community here. A man by the name of Papo will probably come by your boat. He is trustworthy and he owns the mooring field that I am on right now. It's $3 a day for a mooring ball, well worth it. I've heard bad things about anchoring here, just that the silt can be very hard for an anchor to really dig into. And then once you do go to check in, you'll be going to 4 different places. Agriculture, which will cost you $10. Port Authority, which will cost you $30, Immigration, which will cost you $77, and then the Dominican Republic Navy, which is just up the hill. That'll be from the Commandant, and that will cost you nothing. You should not pay anything when you go there. And that's it. Then you're checked in. Welcome to the DR. When you do go to leave a port, you are going to have to get a despacho that actually says where you're going to next. The reason you don't hear about a lot of boats cruising the DR, I think, is, well, one, it's hard to find good anchorages here, just the way the coastline's laid out. It's beautiful, amazing country. Highly, highly recommend you come and stay. But you need to get the Commandant's permission to go from place to place, basically. When I'm in a place like the Bahamas or the USA, I go wherever I want to, and it's very nice like that. And that's how it is most other places. It takes a little bit to getting used to it, and to be honest, I am still getting used to it as I prepare to leave, actually probably tomorrow morning, from Luperon. And I will do my best to make a follow-up video with all of this. I'd like to add too that check-in and check-out procedures and laws can change. So I really recommend you, first off, talk to your fellow sailors that have just done it. There really is no better way, I think. Second off, I'd really recommend checking out Noonsite, a great resource for sailors, but that sometimes isn't up to date, as well as Facebook groups. There's usually a Facebook group for cruising the Bahamas, cruising the DR. Those are another great place, and you never know, you might end up linking up with your next buddy boat. Cheers.